There we go. So, let's just get started. Can I have somebody read out loud for us the box of information? You have it. It's in dotted lines for you guys. It's not in dotted lines for me. This is the page you should be on. Yep, Kobe, can you read that out loud for us?
Yes, sir. Is identity proportional?
Yes, identify proportional relationships.
Oh, all right. Another way to determine whether two quantities are proportional is to graph the quantities on the coordinate plane. If the graph of the two quantities is a straight line through the origin, then the two quantities are proportional.
Boom, you are literally told exactly what we need to know. What is the key idea that we're going to be focusing on today? With your pencil, I want you to underline it. What is that key idea that we are going to be focusing on today? Yeah, graphing, but identifying what? And how do we do that? What did it say? So what was it? Straight line. Straight line what? Through the origin. What is the origin?
Zero.
It's the point 0, 0. So straight line through the origin. So that's important. We need to underline that. That is what we're going to focus on today. So that means we need to remember how to graph, right? Now with proportional relationships, we typically focus in the real world. Remember how I said that this stuff is a real world application of this stuff? So in the real world, there aren't negative stuff, right? You guys did your con, and I instructed you guys to please do the first two, points on the coordinate plane and quadrants on the coordinate plane. You guys remember which quadrant has all positive numbers?
How quadrant is 3?
Quadrant 1. It's the one that we're going to be staying in today. If we have all positive numbers, we're going to be hanging out in quadrant 1, because most stuff in the real world is all dealing with positive numbers when we're looking at proportional relationships, right? Can you work a negative number of hours?
No.
No. Can you build a negative number of houses?
No.
Can you buy a negative number of tickets? See what I'm saying? So when we're talking about real world stuff with proportionality, we hang out in quadrant 1 because it's all positive. So you see this point right here? That point is the origin. This is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're hanging out in quadrant 1. So all we got to do is we're asked this question: the slowest mammal on Earth. Okay? So you're learning things. Right? We're learning stuff. Tree sloth moves at a speed of 6 feet per minute. So what's the unit rate?
6 feet per minute.
Oh, look at that. We're told the unit rate. Nice. Determine whether the number, listen carefully, the number of feet the sloth moves is proportional to the number of minutes. So is the distance proportional to the time? And so when we plot that table, right, we've got, if he's moved for 0 minutes, how far is he going to move? After 1 minute, how far will he have moved?
6.
2, 12, etc., right? And so when you graph this, you'll notice that it is a straight line. And where does it start? It passes through the origin. So, proportional or not? Proportional. Now, could we have checked the table that we made? Yes. What should be true about the table? What did we talk about yesterday? What should be true about the table? Come on, guys, we did it yesterday. Exactly. They should all simplify down the numerator, with one exception: 0, 0. What's 0 divided by 0? Don't say 0. 0 divided by 0 is not 1.
Error.
Error. Why is it called error? Somebody said undefined. Who's that over here? Piper? Why is it undefined? Exactly. You can't divide nothing into 0 groups. How many groups of nothing can you have? If you have nothing, how many groups of nothing do you have? Are you sure? How much nothing do I have right here?
Nothing.
I have 1 group of nothing. Now I've got 2 groups of nothing. Can I get rid of my nothing? Oh, now nothing's on the floor. Now nothing's on the wall. Can I get rid of that nothing? It's hard to understand, but the reality is, if you have nothing, you still have nothing. Which means there's a group filled with nothing. There's not no group. There is a group. It just has nothing in it. Okay? So you cannot split nothing into no groups. The smallest number of groups you can split nothing into is one group. That's the smallest number of groups you can split into. So you ignore this one for the sake of the ratios, and you compare 6 over 1, 12 over 2, 18 over 3, 24 over 4. Good to go? Cool. So, I don't know why. Oh, I forgot I had that box there. So this is what we need to know. I want you to try it. I want you to try one. Okay? Read this problem about James and the babysitter. You might want to make a table, or you can plot it on the graph. Talk with your partner about how to plot these points and to make a graph. Ready, set, go. All right. That's probably enough time to at least get a jump start on it. So here's what I've got so far. Hours and money. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, right? And the idea is I just plot those. I couldn't go to 4 hours. Why? Why couldn't I go to 4 hours on my graph? Yeah, so there's not enough room, which means I need to just stop at that point. So when I draw my line, what should I be looking for? Good, and if I continue this line, does it go through the origin? Good, and why does that make sense? In the real world, what does this point mean?
0.
No, that's what it is. In the real world, what does it mean? Did you hear that? If you work 0 hours, you get $0. What does this point mean?
First hour, $5.
No. What does it mean in the context of the problem? If you work 1 hour, you get $5. Notice you're comparing this to that. What does this point mean? If you work 2 hours, you get $10. And the last point is then if you work 3 hours. That's what those points mean in the real world. Okay? All right, let's move on. This is pretty much the main idea that we're doing. We'll do probably one more example before we break. So here, Stephen, could you read out loud number 2 for us?
Yeah. The cost of renting a video games from Games Incorporated is shown on the table, determined whether the cost is proportional to the number of games rented by graphing it on the coordinate planes. Explain your reasoning.
Good, so the goal here is we could look at the table and determine, right? But the problem is asking us to graph it. So when we plot these points, and here's the example, you plot the points, how do we get the ordered pair? Well, it says determine whether the cost is proportional to the number of games. So number of games is going to be on the bottom. So number of games is our x. Cost will be our y. Whenever we graph this stuff, we graph them as x, comma, y. All right? So here you're given the table x, comma, y. That's the order that we plot them in. So that's why the points are 1, comma, 3, 2, 5, 3, 7, and 4, 9. Notice that's where it came from. So it's like doing this. 1, comma, 3, 2, comma, 5, 3, comma, 7, 4, comma, 9. That's kind of how that works. And it's because we're told that the cost is proportional to the number of games. So number of games is on the bottom, cost is on the top. Okay? So when we plot those points, what do you notice? So this is an example. So you don't have to plot them, but you can see where they came from. Saeed?
It's not proportional
Why?
because it doesn't start at 0. Or the origin.
Exactly. It doesn't go through the origin. Is it a straight line?
Yeah.
Yes. That means there's a constant rate, but there isn't a unit rate. It's going up. The cost goes up by $2 every time. In a few days, we're going to call that slope. But for now, we aren't worried about slope. We're worried about unit rate. There is no unit rate. If there was a unit rate, what would it be? Be 3 to 1, right? Because the first one, 3 over 1, or $3 per game. But at this video game rental place, do they give you a discount if you rent more than one? Remember, if you rent one game, it costs $3, right? So it'd be $3 per game. But if you rent 2 games, it only costs $5 because they're giving you a discount for getting more. That's something that happens in the real world, right? If you buy more, a lot of times you'll get a discount. So that shows that it's not always proportional. The more you buy isn't always proportional to the cost. Sometimes the more you buy, Yeah, you have to pay more, but you actually save a little bit. So here when you rent more, you actually save a little bit. And you can also check the ratios, right? 3 to 1 is not the same thing as 5 to 2. Cool? Remember that? So we got one more that I want you to do. That I want us to do before we move on to other stuff. Before we actually just go on to trying it. Okay? Table shows the number of calories an athlete burned per minute of exercise. Determine whether the number of calories burned is proportional to the number of minutes by graphing on a coordinate plane. So notice it says, determine whether the number of calories burned is proportional to the number of minutes. So the number of minutes, that's our x. Number of calories is our y. So what's our first point that we're going to plot? 0, 0. Hey, that's promising. What's our next point that we're going to plot? What is it? What's it going to be? 1, 4, because number of minutes is 1, that'd be here, and 4. Next one is 2, 8. The next one is 3, 13. So, what do you see? It's a little bit tough to see, but it curves. Where does it curve?
At 8.
13.
Yeah, it curves here. It changes. So we have to be really accurate with our points. It's going to go up at an angle, and then it's going to curve. Why? Think real world. What is this? This says the number of calories burned to the minutes of exercise. Why would it start here and then start to burn more?
They're probably eating more food.
No, we're
You're
exercising.
working harder.
Are you working harder? Okay, think about it when you're on a treadmill, right? You're jogging. What are the first 2 minutes probably called when you're exercising? What is that called? It's your warm up, right? You're building it up. You're building up the strength, the speed, and then you start to go faster, right? Maybe on the 3rd minute, you're like, all right, I'm warmed up. I'm gonna start going faster. Okay? Or once your heart rate increases, then you start burning more calories, right? So does this table make sense? Yeah. Is it proportional? No. Okay. So we have to be diligent with our graphic. Okay. So here's kind of what it would look like. This is a little bit easier way to see. It's a little bit more accurate than the picture I drew. It goes up, up, and then. So the first one that we did, that was letter A. That was proportional because it was a straight line through the origin. The second one goes through the origin, but it's not a straight line. Okay. We're not actually going to do the guided practice, but we are going to talk through it very quickly. So let's look at the guided practice number 1. Okay, with me? Guided practice. We're just going to talk through them quickly. So, Anna, will you read out loud number 1 for us?
The cost of 30 DV tickets is $12 for one ticket, $24 for 2 tickets, and $36 for 3 tickets. Determine whether the cost is proportional to the number of tickets by graphing on the coordinate and explain your reason.
Good. For time's sake, we're not going to graph it. Is this a proportional relationship?
Yeah.
Why?
And it increases 12 times for every one.
Good. And it simplifies all the same ratio. Right? It's 12 to 1, 12 to 1, 12 to 1. Good. Number 2. Looking at number 2. All right. The number of books is shown after 3 days. Which sale represents a proportional relationship? Tell your partner which one represents a proportional relationship. The Book Palace or Discount Books. Ready, set, tell them right now. Go. And now tell them why. Go. Good. Piper, what did you tell your partner? Book Palace is proportional. Why? There you go. Good. Got to get both of those because doesn't Discount Books go through the origin too, right? But it's not a straight line. Awesome. So how does graphing relationships help you determine whether the relationship is proportional or not? Answer that question. Answer that question with your partner. Question number 3, I want you to summarize what we've talked about today, and then you'll be able to get started on your work. Okay, so summarize, answer the question number 3, read it, answer it, and then you guys can get started. I'll show you the homework in just a second.